The Scream Kings are in no way responsible for any encounters with the paranormal, extraterrestrial abductions, eldritch insanity, hauntings, curses, hexes, demonic possessions, cryptozoological sightings, or any loss of sleep that may result from listening to this podcast.
All right, this is the Scream Kings podcast. This is Max George.
And I'm Nathaniel Darkish.
Don't take it personally. They're just trying to figure out if you're a gold-digging whore, you know? Like my podcast. Woohoo! This is a fun movie.
Yeah. We are talking Ready or Not from last year, 2019, and have to say I was really kind of shocked that it took me as long as it did to actually pick up the film, and man, I really like this movie a lot.
Before we get too far into it, though, I think we need to say a huge thank you to all of our followers and listeners and supporters and guests and everyone who was on the podcast in the year 2019. We had a banging year of 2019. We did some awesome stuff here on the podcast, and it's just so incredible that people keep listening to us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. It's continuing to be a lot of fun. And this is our 40th episode. Can you believe that?
Ooh, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, we might have to do something when we hit 50.
All right, so now that niceties are aside, let's talk about murder and death and intrigue and the devil.
And, games.
Hide and seek? Are we really going to play that?
Well, the rules are simple. You can hide anywhere. We then try to find you.
So there's no way for me to win, right?
And stay hidden till dawn.
No, thank you.
Good luck.
So, quick plot review. Budget, Margot Robbie, bless her heart, Samara Weaving, who is so underrated. Where has she been all our lives?
She's just been making lots of horror movies lately.
She's awesome. She's getting married to a very dapper-looking gentleman by the name of Alex, if I'm not mistaken. That's not his brother, right? Daniel's his brother? Yes.
Let me double check. Yeah.
Les Domas is the family, and they are rich. And when I say rich, I mean it with a capital R and an exclamation point, because it's crazy.
Yeah, they got some money to throw around.
And everything seems to be a little tense. Alex is very concerned about her getting married to him. He even gives her like a out, like if you want to turn around, do it now. You're not quite sure what's going on. Everyone seems to have a very serious demeanor. You see this super awesome aunt. She looks like such a badass. And then they get married, and it's still very almost melancholic. The cinematography for this section I thought was stunning. The location that they filmed it on was beautiful. I would love to know where they did that. This huge kind of Victorian mansion.
I know it's up in
gardens.
Canada somewhere, but I'm not exactly sure where.
So to fast forward a little bit, the night of the wedding, the Domas family, way back when, their ancestor kind of made this pact with this very enigmatic character by the name of Labelle. And that pact was that anytime someone in the family gets married, they have to kind of draw this card. And if it was hide and seek, then they play a game of murder. They literally play hide and seek, and it's not just tag you're it's tag you're dead.
And of course, if you get a different game that comes up, then you can, play whatever comes up. It can be Go Fish, it can be Canasta, whatever. But
Canasta? How old are you?
Well, LaBelle has a lot of old games in there.
I'm sorry, but Canasta? I just was not expecting that in the slightest from you, Nathaniel.
That's why I threw it your way.
Anyway, keep going. I'm just going to giggle.
It could be Parcheesi. It could be Bridge. I know all kinds of old person games.
Clearly. You are almost 30.
Yeah. So old. But yeah, so one thing that you kind of skipped over, though, is that we kind of first learn about how intense this game of hide and seek really is with just kind of the cold open, where we just see these children hiding as they watch someone trying to futilely hide and then get dragged out and murdered. And they help the family know where to murder them. And so these are the groom and his brother as children watching their aunt play this game, or her husband, have be murdered as the result of this game. So it seems like hide and seek doesn't come up often, but it is, that's part of the deal. That's the big, important, scary game. But yeah, so we have basically Samara Weaving's character, Grace. She isn't taking this seriously. She's just like, this is crazy. Like, let's just, have our wedding night. And it's like, no, we have to do this thing. Yeah, so the game comes up and she is being hunted. They don't really tell her, hey, like, we're going to kill you. But she picks up on that pretty fast as she's trying to hide, and then she suddenly sees them all walking around with weapons, and they actually try to kill her and, accidentally kill a maid. And, so, I mean, it's fairly straightforward for most of the film. We have kind of beat after beat of her managing to get away, and it becomes, more and more desperate as it goes on, and she kills more and more of them. They kill each other. It's a big mess. They're not exactly super good at hunting people for sport.
And I think the word that best describes this movie as a whole would be fun.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't take itself too seriously. The plot is, I think, very well thought out. There's a little bit more that I'd like to see, which we'll get at. But from start to finish, it keeps you entertained so well. I never thought that it was going over, that it ended too soon. Like, it was just such a fun and enjoyable experience for a horror movie. It's gruesome and it's very graphic at parts, but it's so fun, and it's an original story. Everyone complains that there's nothing original out there anymore, and this is one of those things that it is. I've never seen something like this.
This was a movie that I became aware of because I saw a trailer drop, and I was like, really? It's a one about hide and seek? But I watched the trailer, and I'm like, oh, maybe. But, when I finally decided to rent it, and I really, like, in retrospect, really wish I would have seen it in theaters, because it was, like you said, it's so much fun. Like, it is a movie definitely made for horror fans. It definitely has a lot of the gore, a lot of the violence and things like that are kind of so ingrained into the genre. But it's humor for horror fans. Like, there's a lot of laugh out loud moments, and it makes some fun social satirical points and things like that. But really at the end of the day, yeah, it is a fun, stylish, exciting movie for horror fans. And I absolutely loved it. And
I think part of that, and why it was so fun and engaging, is the acting is sublime throughout the entire movie. Even these side piece characters that we'll kind of talk about a little bit more in detail, they were right on the spot as far as their characterization goes. There were just so many levels to everybody. Even, like, the throwaway maids. You see, like, 3 of them die, and it's perfect. Their acting was just so incredibly fun.
Agreed. I feel like, especially like Samara Weaving with the character Grace, or Margot Robbie, who plays her husband Alex, they were the kind of the more serious characters in the film, and were able to you kind of see some more complexity to how they're performing it. A lot of the other characters were a little bit more cartoonish, but like not in I don't mean that in a negative way. What I really mean is that, like, their characters are very ridiculous. We have the sister who hasn't really done anything with her life and has just done, basically just does a bunch of cocaine or whatever to because her family's from money, so like why not? We have the brother who is super sarcastic and calls his wife a whore. That's what the line is from, and really just doesn't see himself as being important. We see these kind of very over the top caricatures of rich people, but it works for the film in a very effective way, because these are the kind of people that, like, you could actually maybe see hunting someone for sport, like I said.
And I think, like you mentioned, they are kind of cartoony, but the feel of the movie, the plot, and how it kind of starts and ends, they fit. Like, there's no disjointed kind of over-the-top acting at all. And let's kind of move into the family itself. I mean, you mentioned a lot of kind of the rich tropes that are involved, but I think even beyond that, a lot of the characters that we see in this family are very authentic to what is in a traditional family nowadays. You know, you've got your weird, estranged aunt or uncle, and we see that with this kind of hyper-violent aunt who experienced hide-and-seek before, but we don't know this until later on.
You can piece it together pretty fast, but yeah, she is the one whose husband gets killed at the very start of the film, and so yeah, she's bitter about it forever, and so yeah, she's so excited that she gets to do this to someone else.
And then you see the very stoic mother who, Samara Weaving's character Grace, she's an orphan, and so she's kind of like taking her under her wing with some passive-aggressive jabs, which is very, like, monster-in-law kind of development in my mind. And then you've got the boisterous and overeager father figure who is just super excited about this game. He's committed, he's serious about it, but at the same time, he's pretty slap-happy about killing somebody.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, you can definitely tell that he's drunk in the Kool-Aid.
Right, and then you have, like you mentioned, this kind of ridiculous daddy's girl, quote unquote, who has done nothing with her life and loves cocaine, and her husband, who's just kind of the deadbeat brother-in-law who married into all of this. Like, all of these tropes I thought were super fun because we've seen them all in our families.
Or just, you know, we've seen them in movies before, things like that. Like, it's familiar, but we haven't necessarily seen these characters turned quite to this level where, yeah, they literally have to, like, run around with, like, an antique crossbow and try to, you know, kill somebody.
It works because they are so kind of dumb because of the richness of it all, that of course they don't know how to work this antique crossbow. So let me take a break in the bathroom and watch a YouTube video about it. Like,
yeah, that's one of my favorite moments. It's just him sitting and watching so you have a crossbow. This is how you use a crossbow. Like, oh man.
Like,
it slayed me.
The writers thought through it so well, I think. I really enjoy this movie. It's going to be a buyer for me, I think. Let's talk, though, about our two main characters, Alex and Grace, because Grace is such a heroine, I think, and such a breath of fresh air when it comes to Final Girls.
I really like Grace because she has a lot of personality. Like, this whole thing is alien to her. You know, she doesn't come from money. She, you know, grew up in a foster home. She's so excited to finally have a family. She's very sincere. And then suddenly she has this thrown at her. And I liked the way that her initial reaction was just shock. Like, this cannot be happening. And so she just tries to hide. She tries to find her husband, just tries to find out, like, what is going on? This can't be serious. This can't really be happening. But then as things go on, you know, she immediately is like, you know what? Like, I guess this is the situation I'm in. Like, I need to hide. I need to arm myself. I need to do whatever I can to survive. And so, you know, I love that, like, pretty early into the film, you know, and she's running around in a wedding dress. And so pretty early, she rips off the bottom of the dress, and, you know, you see her in yellow Converse and a wedding dress, and it's kick-ass.
Yeah, it's totally kick-ass. I just love how she's smart. Like, there is that kind of shock and horror of, oh my gosh, they really are trying to kill me. Like, this is not a joke. This is not a game. This is murder. And you see her kind of break down, but then there's a moment where she's talking with Alex and he's kind of explaining the situation and how sorry he is that he's brought her into this, and he never thought that she would choose the hide and seek card. And you can see Samara Weaving's character, and the acting here is just phenomenal because you see her make that mental decision of, okay, this is a shitty situation. I'm going to win. I'm not gonna die. and you're just like, yeah, you can do it. It's awesome. It's empowering, and it's cool to watch a female character like this just in the horror that she's faced.
And along those lines, though, I also liked that not every decision she makes is like the thing that you would be, that us as an audience are going like, yeah, that's the super smart way to go. Yeah, she's always like on the top of her game, because she's not.
No.
Like she's panicked at moments, she's confused, she's shocked by the things that are happening. She's unfamiliar with this place. And so, yeah, she doesn't, perfectly maneuver through everything, but she is very good at, trying to, where she fails in terms of being clever at times, she does a great job of just being persistent. That I think is the best part, where, she doesn't always she's not always the smartest person in the room necessarily, but she has the most gumption.
She's always one step ahead, even if she's fumbling as she's moving or injuring herself. She falls down this giant well when she thought she was safe.
All kinds of messed up. Yeah,
she falls into this big pile of dead goat corpses, which again,
and human corpses
and goats, not a thing, not my thing. Please no. And she freaks out a bit, like any one of us would. But then she's like, okay, this happened. Let's go. Let's move on. How do I get out next? And I can't say enough about how awesome her character was. She's one of my new favorite horror characters, honestly.
Agreed. Yeah, she really just delivered. And then I also like that, the other big character is Alex, her husband. And I like that he is a character with some complexity. So part of the legend of, LaBelle and why they have to play these games is that if you get married not at the house and don't play the game, then you die. And so, he knew that Grace, really wanted to get married, and so he was like, okay, like, I don't want to go home to my family. I hate my family. They're terrible. They're just, stuck up, and they're, selfish and horrible. He's trying to get out of this life, but he knows that in order to spend the rest of his life with this woman, he either has to tell her about all of this stuff, which she won't believe, or he just has to go and just try to roll with it and hope for the best, and then, he gets the worst possible scenario. And so I like that he is in over his head, because he, this is the worst possible scenario that he could have ever dreamed of, but he never thought that it could happen like this.
Again, the way he acts and the way he kind of handles the situations makes you feel so empathetic for him. The scenes with him and Grace are very emotional and very like, I couldn't tell you about this because I loved you so much and I really didn't think it would come to this. Here we are. I want to help you survive. Like, he is going against his family, against tradition, which, I mean, we could talk about how it's very horrific to do that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And thousands of people, especially within the LGBT community, have to do this, and how much of a sacrifice I think it is for him that isn't explicitly said in the film, but you feel it between these two characters. You're always rooting for Alex, and you're always rooting for Grace.
Well, not always for Alex, because he does end up...
I didn't want to spoil it right now.
Well, but I think that's an important beat to talk about with his character. Alex ultimately turns on Grace. He has the moment where he feels like, she has, murdered too much of his family now, and he, like, starts to really kind of change his tune, and so, yeah, he decides, okay, you know what? I'm going to help my family. It's for the best, and I guess this is who I am. And so when he does that, and then Grace ends up winning at the end. Spoiler, not that will be a big surprise. That's the ending you want and cheer for the whole time. And if you didn't get it, it would kind of suck, honestly. So when he changes his mind, I like the way that Grace realizes, like, okay, well, like, you wanted all these things, and I like, and I like that she was angry at him, very genuinely. Like you understand her motivations of, like, why she's angry at him, throughout the whole movie of like, you didn't tell me about this stuff. You didn't trust me. You didn't ever give me a chance to maybe believe you. And so I like how sincere both of them are, and then you understand why he decides to turn on her, even though it's a crappy move and is obviously the wrong move, and it just makes that ending so satisfying.
Well, and it's awesome too at how quickly you switch from caring about Alex's situation to just absolutely hating him. And I think, for me anyway, that happened because of how strong I was rooting for Grace. And this was just the one hope that she kind of kept leaning on. Come to find out, the coin is flipped, and now you're just like, oh, this poor girl. She can't win. She cannot win.
But she does.
She does, which is that ending scene with her and the cigarette is just glorious.
Oh, yeah. In-laws.
Yeah, let me tell you.
And part of also what I really love about this is that so Alex is a, if we're gonna pull in some literary archetypes, because I have to, because I'm an English teacher, and
you do, it's fine.
So he's a tragic hero where he is ultimately undone by his flaws. He's ultimately undone by his past, where he gives in to this desire to reconnect with his terrible family and things like that, and so ultimately he decides to value them over this new life that he claims he wants to create. And so I like that that we have the tragic hero, and then we have with Grace her surviving against all odds, and ultimately kind of realizing that maybe she doesn't need to have a family in her life to be a whole person. Because that's something that you kind of see throughout the film, with the conversation she has with Alex or with the mom or things like that, where she's like, I grew up in foster homes, I've never really had a family, and this is something that has kind of defined her whole existence, is not having a family and her wanting that. And so I love that at the end, basically she just says you know what, I'm enough for myself, and I liked that. It's a strong thing to say where, it doesn't say that family is inherently bad, but that you should be able to be a strong person on your own in spite of whether you have a family or not.
Yeah, and I think it's an extremely important message in today's society that, individuals are so much more than the sum of their past, and family is a part of that past. And yes, we take a lot of good and a lot of bad from our families, but at the end of the day, it's up to us as individuals to kind of decide our destiny. And I think that was kind of one of the deeper messages with Ready or Not. And I just hope we can see more material like this coming through, because it spoke to me on a very spiritual level that you don't need family traditions to be a badass.
Yeah. Another theme that we can talk about is, man, rich people can really suck.
Between this and Knives Out this year,
and Parasite,
yeah, which was gypped from the Oscars, which is a whole nother episode we should do.
No, Parasite's up for Best Picture and
Best Oh my gosh,
Picture.
That is right. I completely forgot about that. I think I was thinking about none of the leads getting nominated for Best.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Agreed. Anywho.
Yeah, but I saw those three movies listed as the Screw the Rich trilogy.
Yeah, because it's insane.
I like that it does show how insane it can be in terms of these honored traditions or things like that. What I really loved about the film is that we have this very Faustian bargain that was made, but the thing is, none of these family members really knows if it's true or not. They've kind of just blindly followed this edict from kind of crazy ancestors to, you have to do this thing. And they have some reasons to believe it. They have had instances where family members have died if they didn't get married there and do the game and all of that. I like that there are reasons to believe it, but there's also plenty of reasons to not believe it, because it is kind of a cuckoo bananas thing to say.
I want to kind of go back a little bit to this extreme comparison of the rich versus the poor. Do you think it's ever gotten this bad? Like, where just the rich are so rich that they literally will treat the poor like sport for murder. I know it's very hyperbole here, of course, with this medium, but what do you think, Mr. Literary?
Well, I have several literary examples just ready to go.
That's why I ask. I just wanted you to say it out loud.
Well, okay, so the idea of a rich person hunting people for sport is nothing new.
Absolutely.
We have, the most dangerous game, stuff like that. Like, it's a trope. Like, it's a thing. Look up TV tropes, hunting for sport. I'm sure you'll find a gazillion entries. So this idea isn't necessarily super fresh or new by any means. This disparity of wealth is definitely something that we've seen all throughout human history. And I love that the response of people who are less wealthy or who are more socially conscious is almost always satirical in like the most nasty way possible. So obviously with this we have someone just killing a bunch of rich people by the end of it, and it's great and bloody and wonderful and fun. In the past though, we have things that there's some kind of more gentle things. It's Horatian satire where it's more gentle and getting people to laugh at themselves. And we have stuff like classic epic poem, The Rape of the Lock, which is just about like some rich guy stealing a lock of hair from a girl and like them acting like it's a big epic poem. Like is this like mythological event, but it's just stupid. But then on the flip side, we also have satire that is Juvenalian satire, which is super biting and nasty, which I would say this film absolutely fits within that category. But what comes to mind is A Modest Proposal, where Jonathan Swift basically just was like, oh, hey, all you rich people are complaining about like these poor people everywhere, and oh, what a horrible eyesore they are, and things like that. You're just like, you know what? You people are monsters. So let's just like address it directly. You should, I don't know, why don't you eat their babies?
Yeah, that's a good point. I never even thought about A Modest Proposal. That's iconic.
Yeah, and like it's iconic for a reason. It's like the most sarcastic, powerful piece of satire ever written, honestly. This, I would say is at least of a similar vein to something like A Modest Proposal, because like, yeah, this is nothing new. Like, wealth disparity has been since freaking money was invented, since wealth was a thing that could be accumulated. And so, the question is, what do you do? Do you do good with your money, or do you just, are you selfish with it? And this is definitely, the long a conversation that will always exist. And I like that satire like this or A Modest Proposal exists to say, like, it's kind of messed up. Like, even if you aren't actively going out and eating babies or killing people for sport, you're still, like, failing to do any good with your money. You might as well be doing those things because you have the potential to do the opposite.
Yeah, that's a great point. This is why I asked you that question, because I knew you had it in you.
Oh, yeah, I have that just like ready to go at any time. I can lecture about A Modest Proposal for so long.
As one should. If anyone who is listening has not had the experience of A Modest Proposal, go change that. It's brilliant.
Pause the podcast right now. Read A Modest Proposal. It's like 6 pages long. Not that big of a deal. Read it. It is just horrifying but hilarious.
I think we've kind of touched about how this movie masterfully combines awesome horror with hilarious comedy moments. You have a note on our show notes that you loved how Grace's dress as the movie progressed just would get dirtier and bloodier, and it was kind of almost a symbol of how far she had come.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning, it was a quintessential wedding dress, and by the end of it, it was a rag. I just thought that was beautiful as well.
Well, and what part of what I like about that so much is that, when it starts out, yeah, it's this gorgeous lace wedding dress that's, probably a gazillion dollars, because she's marrying into this mega rich family. And then as soon as crap starts going down, she just rips it off, or rips off the bottom. And then as it goes, further and further and further, it's just like blood splatter, blood splatter, blood splatter. It gets bloodier, nastier, dingier. And by the end of it, it's not just like a rag necessarily. It almost just looks like it's a totally different color of dress. It looks like it's a red dress. And so what I like is that, like, she's no longer married at the end because Alex dies. And so, like, yeah, like, she's a whole different person by the end. And so, like, it shows her transformation as a person. And it just, like, it's a really cool set piece to have. Like, I think I was reading some stuff about the production, and I think they had, like, 17 versions of the dress.
Oh, wow.
Just, that way they could just, prepare all of the different versions of different bloody levels and all that. But, yeah, I think it's great. And also, it's just, like, the visual of, this bride in yellow Converse in a bloody dress is just, like, such a cool, like, iconic image that really just, like, nails it. Like, just the visuals in this, like, the gorgeous cinematography, the beautiful set of this, mansion, the, even, like, LaBelle, who, spoiler, is real, is, like, he looks really cool. Like, I don't know, I loved everything about this. Just, like, the visuals.
And not to mention, yellow's your favorite color, and Converse are your favorite shoes. So
yeah, yellow Converse are awesome.
I feel like that's what was going on here, Nathaniel.
Well, I do own yellow Converse, but I won't use them to cosplay as Grace.
I would pay good money to see that, and I mean good money.
Well, we might have to negotiate something because I mean it's not 100% off the table. The money's good enough.
Oh, let's talk about a few of the things that we may not have loved about the show.
Okay, because we've just been gushing over it for so long.
For real, we need to bring it down a notch. I loved the LaBelle story. I thought that was super fun. I would have liked it better had it not been real, and that this was just like blind obedience for all of these years, and it was just superstition and tradition. I was really hoping for that. And then it did turn supernatural. I feel like that kind of weakened a few things for me. It felt a bit forced. I really would have loved it if it was just like a chaotic family tradition gone to shit.
So I actually feel the opposite on that. I'm gonna make an argument for it. Because to me, what I liked about it is that they didn't know if it was real or not. But, so to me, like, it's just as sincerely, like, a ridiculous, chaotic tradition because, like, they really don't have any rational, good reason to believe that LaBelle is real and that, that they will all die if they fail to kill her. That's totally off the wall. They really shouldn't actually believe that. And the fact that it ends up being real, to me, just made that ending, so satisfying because she prevails. The only people left are the dad and Alex, and because they lose, pop, blood. Oh man, they just explode in a gush of blood. It really worked for the ending for me because, like, to me, yes, like, the chaotic family that you want was already there. Like, even if there wasn't the supernatural ending, it would be just the same because either way, they're still the same people and they made the decisions based on a really unlikely tradition.
And I get that. I think that is a good point of view there. I don't know. I think it would have spoke a little bit more to the horrors that family traditions can do to people sometimes. And especially if you were believing it was a supernatural movie and then all of a sudden it wasn't. and the dad and Alex are fine, and she now has to kill them, I think that for me would have been like, ugh, all of this was done in vain. Like, they could have been happy. But I see your point. I totally see what you're saying. And so I think it's kind of a different side to the same coin a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly see why you would prefer it not going that way. But LaBelle looks so great. And people blowing up look so great.
And that was fun. Like, I think it was a satisfying way to just kill everybody in a very demonic Satan kind of way.
Taylor and I high-fived each other and just were like,
yeah! Yeah! And I laughed out loud. Like, it was just one of those moments where it was like, yeah, Satan would do that. Yeah! My biggest gripe is I would have loved to see other games being played out in this very violent manner. I love that it was hide and seek. That was fun. But other games I think would have been cool. Like Ghost in the Graveyard or Capture the Flag even. And maybe we'll get a sequel that will. Who knows?
I doubt it. It felt very complete. But I do agree, like...
Maybe not a sequel, but like another Ready or Not 2. Capture the Flag!
Maybe.
I wouldn't be excited, but it could happen.
Yeah, you would have to have a really, really killer script for me to be interested. But yeah, I agree. Like I feel like it would have been interesting if there was a little bit more to the games that the others had to play. Because, it's like, oh yeah, I had to play Go Fish. Oh, I played Old Maid. Like, that was just kind of like a throwaway joke around the table as they're, having her pick the card. But yeah, like, I wanted to see, like, okay, so did they have to win? Like, what happened there? It seems like, yeah, the only one with any real significance is hide and seek. And I just kind of wanted to know, yeah, why hide and seek? I just would like to see maybe, yeah, some at least like light supernatural spookiness or something to that, or just like ridiculous intensity to them having to play Old Maid.
Yeah. Or Canasta.
Yeah, or Bridge.
After kind of talking about it, I think Alex's emotional flip was executed better than I was thinking when I wrote my notes. It did seem authentic, but it also kind of felt like it was against the rest of the movie. It just felt very sudden when I first saw the movie. Talking it through a little bit, though, on this episode has swayed me a little bit to see a little bit more authenticity. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I think it was
good.
Yeah, I feel like it could have been played up a little bit more of why he decided to switch sides. Yeah, because, I mean, it really boils down to his brother died, and then his mom died. And, but his brother dying wasn't Grace's fault at all. But he assumes it is. I don't know. I just wish that we would have seen kind of more of his thought process a little bit. Or, even if he just explained it a little bit more, because he kind of panickedly explains, I love you, all that stuff at the end before he goes pop. I just would have liked to see maybe a little bit more of him explaining himself, because that would have made it a little bit more grounded.
Yeah, definitely. The only other thing, as far as a gripe goes, if you can even call it a gripe, is I just loved the crazy aunt. I think her aesthetic was cool. I think her attitude was awesome. I wanted more.
Yeah, she was pretty freaking great.
All right, let's move into Screams and Crowns, I think, unless there's anything else you wanted to chat about.
Nothing else is coming to mind. I just want to say again, I really freaking like that movie a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll just say this now. It might be my favorite horror movie from last year.
Really? That's a big statement.
I don't think it was the scariest or, necessarily, the most well-constructed. But just, in terms of what movie I'm going to revisit from last year, it's probably going to be that one.
I feel like Ari Aster just pissed in his pants a little bit, mister.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. Midsommar is, a very masterful film, but, Midsommar isn't necessarily a movie I want to, put myself through over and over and over again. While Ready or Not, like, I'm freaking ready to watch it again today. I could probably watch it again next week. Like, it's a blast.
Crowns, I gave it an 8, and I am kind of wanting to give it an 8.5, even maybe a 9. Like, it's an awesome show. Watch this show.
Yes.
It's not, I mean, it's graphic and it's pretty intense at some parts, but it's not vulgar. It's not crazy demonic. Like, it's a blast. It's a great show.
Yeah. I also gave it an 8, but I too also, kind of danced around 8.5 or 9. I don't know, should we just say that we can give it a combined 8.5 just because we both really want to?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Screams, I gave it a 4. It wasn't really that scary, but I mean, like I said, it's a movie for horror people, even if it's not the scariest movie.
Agreed, and I gave it a 5. There were some scenes that kind of got under my skin a little bit. The kid shooting her with a gun, falling into the well. It wasn't terrifying, but it did get under my skin more than I thought it would.
It got that goat bump for you.
Oh, that's just dumb goats. She did not want to live deliciously. Let's just say that. Why does this movie work so well as far as hide and seek? I feel like there's been a few other movies that have played on the game trope. I wrote a few down, and I don't know if they quite fit. Candyman is kind of the Bloody Mary in the mirror 3 times. You have Saw, which is not really the same.
Wanna play a game?
Yeah, like, it's torture porn. It's not anything near what we watched with Ready or Not. Truth or Dare comes close. It's an abysmal movie, but it's this idea of playing Truth or Dare, and the dares get progressively worse and worse.
Yeah, there's also like that Would You Rather not good.
Yeah.
Movie.
And then maybe Jumanji, which I don't classify as a horror, but it's another kind of board game action.
I mean, I guess last year there was also Escape Room.
Yeah, I never saw that one.
I didn't either. I heard it wasn't good, but,
So what works with this movie that maybe a few of these others haven't really done?
To me, it really still felt very true to this idea of a game, and the whole thing was built around the idea of games. I'll say that Jumanji, I think, works really well as a movie, but it's just not horror. But yeah, a lot of these other ones, they're just, they were kind of, and really when I'm saying other ones, I'm mostly talking about, Escape Room or Truth or Dare or Would You Rather, that kind of thing. Those were kind of movies that were just like, hey, like, this is a thing that teenagers do, right? And so that was kind of the intent, was like, hey, let's capitalize on what some, teenagers do and to make a quick buck, just kind of the cheap horror movies churned out for teenagers that that the studios and the people making them don't really care about. But for this movie, it was made by people who you can tell absolutely love horror, love what they do. They're skilled filmmakers, actors, the whole shebang. And so, this game idea was done very sincerely and with a lot of energy and humor and like it's self-aware of how ridiculous it is. And that's what makes it work. They really lean into how ridiculous the idea is to make a hide and seek horror movie. But it's still a blast because they really just roll with it.
And I would totally agree. I think the sincerity behind this show, they were not trying to make some cultural amazing movie, but they did. They weren't trying to force a teenage cliche or a childhood cliche. I think it was just done with, like you mentioned, just a fun heart. Like, let's make a fun movie and call it good. Mm-hmm. And they did it perfectly. Like, I would agree with you, it's one of the best horrors of 2019. I don't think it's my favorite, but it's amazing. It's so good. Go watch this movie. All right, Nathaniel, how are you staying spooky nowadays?
Well, I am staying spooky not nearly as much as I would like to, just based on the fact that I'm dealing with end of semester stuff as a teacher. But other than the terror that is just dealing with teenagers sometimes, the thing that came to mind actually is just, and this is going to be feel totally out of left field for probably a lot of the horror folks listening, but the thing that has kind of stuck out to me as the thing that has been my big spooky go-to in the last little bit is just Star Wars Rise of Skywalker.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. I don't care what people say. I loved it.
I also agree that people on the internet are wrong.
Okay, Star Wars fans are the worst kind of nerd fans.
I'm coming to totally agree with that sentiment.
Like, holy cow, people. Go have a drink. Pop a Xanax. Go sleep with someone. There are better things to argue about on the internet. Holy moly.
Agreed. And so, don't add us about us being wrong about Star Wars, because I'll just block you.
Savage.
I don't have time for that. But what I was going to say is that Rise of Skywalker works for this segment, because it was a pretty genuinely creepy movie at times. Like, the Emperor was a straight up, like, horror monster at times, and it was really cool.
Yeah, the CGI and the effects that they have for him, those like deep set red Evil Dead eyes that he was giving us at the end,
full on like zombie hands that are partially torn up, and oh man.
Yeah, I was living for it. And the moment when Rey, we think, blows up Chewbacca. If that's not horror, don't know what is. We might want to put a disclaimer that there are Star Wars spoilers in this episode.
Yeah.
Bear with me here for my staying spooky.
Okay.
I'm recently broken up. That means I have a lot of free time on my hands, which means I've watched an obscene amount of horror film since New Year's.
Yeah, you keep blowing up my text with talking about that, which I'm totally cool with.
I think I've clocked 14 horror movies since January 2nd, which is almost one a day. It's bad. It's bad.
No, it's more than one a day.
My favorite, not my favorite, but the most fun I've had with them is there's one, it's an Into the Dark series from Hulu. It's called Midnight Kiss. And it's so bad. It's so bad, but it's also so good at the same time. It's about this group of gay guys who every year for New Year's go party, and the rule is you can kiss someone at midnight with no strings attached. They bring their fun, sassy straight girl, and there's a mysterious man in a fetish pup hood who comes and kills everybody. And there's lots of glitter, lots of butts, and it's ridiculous, but so fun at the same time. So that's how I'm staying spooky.
Oh, man.
Okay, it was wonderful, and I'm going to make you watch it one day, and you're just going to groan the entire time. But it will be lovely.
You know that if you do this to me, then I will definitely make you watch some horrible B-horror movie that you're going to hate, and that I enjoy a great deal.
Challenge accepted. A few things that are exciting that are coming up. I have the wonderful opportunity to go to London for a week for work, and I'm going to try and do as much spooky stuff as I possibly can. There's a Jack the Ripper tour that I'm excited for. I'm visiting one of the original occult stores that the founder of Wicca created, which is amazing, and Aleister Crowley visited there multiple times. So that's fun for me. And so I'll be sharing a lot on social media, on my Twitter, and on our Instagram that we are horrible in keeping up with. However, that might mean it might be a little bit of a delay before the next episode comes out. I'm hoping not, but if that happens, we do apologize.
Yes. And then I guess just a thing that's coming up on my end of things is that I'm going to be attending Life in the Universe and Everything conference, which is in Provo, Utah, from February 13th through the 15th. This is a writing conference. It is more sci-fi and fantasy than horror, but there's definitely horror in the mix. I wasn't able to get on any panels, but I'm going to be there. I'm going to be definitely, sporting a Scream King shirt, and so if you listen and, see a guy walking around with a Scream King shirt, it's almost certainly me, so come talk to me. So I would be just beyond thrilled.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we hope you stay spooky.
Stay spooky.
Need even more Scream Kings? Here's our obligatory shameless social media plug. Follow us on Twitter or Instagram at Scream Kings Pod. You could also email us at screamkingspodcast@gmail.com. Help us reach a wider audience of horror fans by leaving a review on iTunes or by sharing a link on social media. You can also support the show by going to patreon.com/Scream Kings. Stay spooky.